What motivates local government disaster? The municipalities an important role for the local development and investment in new infrastructure, critical infrastructure is relevant in Chile at least. My question is, strong capacities and local leadership are important factors of effective local government decisions, but how are the capacities and motivation translated into institutional decisions, and why, I observe, do they sometimes not emerge at all? My research addressed those questions regarding the emerging policy domain of investments in resilient critical infrastructures. Roads, hospitals, very important for everybody. The scope, I develop a model specification to explore if and how both internal and external institutional dynamics, municipal organizations, multi-level governance relationships shape local government processes and outcomes in Chile during the period 2009 and 2016. This is the period of the emerging policy domain of investments, local development, etc. I test hypotheses with regression models using longitudinal data from 345 Chilean municipalities over a 9-year period and analyzing the evidence with support of qualitative data. I have null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. I show better with this diagram. Left side, the null hypothesis, direct effects of leadership, motivations of the leaders on local government decisions and investment. And capacities on the left side, direct effects on this decision. But on the right side, we have the moderating effects of these institutional processes, municipal organization dynamics, and multi-level governance. Moderates the effects of capacities and leadership. This is Chile in South America. Here we have the 346 municipalities, and the model specifications. XIT1 is capacity variable, represents capacity variables, XIT2 leadership variables, and XIT3 municipal organization or external institutional variables. The last variables play a double role, the direct effects of the variables and the moderating effects with an interaction term between capacities and leadership. I cannot use the standard linear panel model because the variable investment is non-linear. It takes positive values along a continuous support, but it accumulates at 0 for several local governments reporting 0 investments. So I implement a two-bit regression model. The variables, the dependent variables, investment in new infrastructures and maintenance. Maintenance is in Chile at least a traditional activities of the municipalities. Cleaning, things like that. Independent variable capacities, I use financial resources, municipal common fund, and personnel, municipal staff, and the professionalization or education of the staff and the education of the mayor. As for leadership attributes, the motivation of the mayor, of course, but with electoral support, with municipal council support, they take decisions, they vote, and if the mayor is in the same political coalition of the ruling party. And the fourth is continuity in the office. Continuity express experience, knowledges, etc. The municipal organization variables, moderating effects, I explore, is municipal accountability, the first, and the municipal organizations. If the municipal organization is robust in terms of They have planning, coordinations, integration between departments, etc. Yeah? And transparency. As for multi-level governance, the variables are transferred from national, regional government into the municipalities and between the municipalities. I use many control variables because resilient infrastructures has to do with citizen needs, but we need resilient infrastructures related to climatic change, disaster, risk of disasters, etc. And I use as control variables locations, environmental variables like precipitations, etc. Many control variables. And I have the results, the quantitative results, and I use qualitative data to analyze these results. Because the quantitative results show the relationships, quantitative relationships, but I don't have the possibility to conclude something, to understand how are the processes. So, for instance, I use data of survey results applied to 98 municipalities, representative municipalities, and I selected 9 municipalities from these 98 municipalities with similarities regarding needs, infrastructure, citizen needs in relation with infrastructures, regarding these municipalities are exposed to climatic change, to frequent disasters, etc., but contrasting from the point of view of investment. And the analyze, so the analyze with the quantitative data and with the qualitative data, the results lead to these results. The results reveals that the observed heterogeneity in infrastructure investment decisions is associated with municipal capacities, leadership attributes, but municipal organization robustness being the most quantitatively outstanding moderating factor, more than these external dynamics of multi-level governance. Here are the tables with regressions, but I mean that is interesting. Here you see the effects of, for example, incumbency or ruling party or major voter rate is electoral support, and you contrast here with the moderating effects of municipal organizations interacting with electoral support. It's high, you know, or accountability. IACM is accountability, you know, interacting with financial resources. Is this party FCM rate. And you see here we see the effects of the multi-level governance variables, moderating the effects of the other variables. My conclusions are based on the estimate models. I reject the null hypothesis and favor the alternative hypothesis, so nonlinear effects, moderating effects. There is nonlinear effects of variables, capacities and attributes of leaders on local government decisions. Variables that represent leadership attributes, electoral, municipal and political support are quantitatively more important than the municipal capacity variables. But municipal organization variables have the most robust moderating effects in some capacity and leadership variables. Whereas implication, where more investment in critical infrastructure is required, organizational robustness and accountability are essential ingredients to achieve progress, making feasible that capacities and leadership motivation translate into decisions and results. Until here is enough, and if you have questions or feedback, I am very happy.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed reading your paper, and I have some brief comments. The first is that given the context that we are in, the pandemic, and like these results are very important, like understanding what you're trying to understand, the investments in critical infrastructure or maintenance becomes even more important in this time. We need to understand like how these different factors are related. Like in the justification of this study, I think that could be stronger, not just COVID related, but just stronger overall. Also, the case selection, like Chile is quite remarkable at the regional level, and it could be emphasized more what your results mean for other governments in Latin America. And then like I was also like I was left very intrigued by the cases that you analyzed qualitatively.
The 9 cases.
The 9 cases, yes. You mentioned some of the very interesting dynamics that you observed in these cases, and I would suggest, or like presenting and incorporating the discussion of these cases more thoroughly to really bring out the main findings of your study with more like examples. I think you have just by reading some of the dynamics you observed, I think it would be super interesting to really bring them out in another version of the paper. So those are the comments I have.
Thank you so much.
Does anyone have questions for Patricio? Or for any other of our panelists? Jacob?
Yeah, I had a quick question for Noah. Well, it may not be a quick question, so you can talk later or something. But I was wondering, I just was curious about your last slide where you show all the maps. This problem of aggregating data. I just saw you had it was like maps of different like principal components.
The maps?
I was wondering what you were aggregating and
this?
Sort of how exactly those were constructed.
Or this?
Sure, yeah. So this is like basically my attempt to compare what urban inequality and segregation looks like at as micro of a level as I can. And so what I did was I downloaded the most recent census data for every country for the entire metropolitan region. So a big part of this project is not to focus on any administrative boundaries, but to sort of induce the urban perimeter, and then sort of to look at all the data that falls within. And so I have data that goes all the way down to like the city block level in a lot of cases, like super, super micro. And the basic premise is that I don't want to code just income. Like I think that like that's really going to miss a lot of the texture of what urban poverty is. And so what I want to do is both capture the multidimensionality of urban poverty while also allowing for the fact that it's going to be very different in different contexts, right? In some case, race is going to be a huge, intersecting factor. In other cases, whether you have services or not, in some cases, like rental units are going to be, highly correlated with this and not. And so what I'm doing is I'm picking all of the variables that I've coded into separate categories, sort of education, employment, infrastructure, all of these things, and I'm throwing that into a principal component analysis, and I'm letting it induce these categories such that I can balance, both inductively, what the data tells me about what naturally goes together, and then attempt to pick apples to apples in cities that sort of, for separate components that appear to look similar, right? And so that's basically the exercise as it stands, because I'm sure there are some pretty sophisticated machine learning applications that would allow me to do some clustering that I'm very much interested and I hope to explore. But this is the way that I thought about it that was the least black box to me. That I sort of had a little bit of control over the data, but still had a sense of allowing that heterogeneity across cities to sort of stand out. So that was basically the approach. And I have that for 7 or 8 cities now, and I'm hoping to finish that for all of the capitals in Latin America and the Caribbean. So, yeah, we'll see.
We have 3 minutes remaining. Does anyone have any last questions or thoughts?
I actually had some questions, if that's okay.
My research addressed those questions regarding them for everybody. In scope, I develop a model specification to explore if this is the period of the emerging etc. I test hypotheses with regression. I have null alternative hypothesis. I show better with this moderates the effects of. This is Chile. Here we have the 3 and the model specifications. The last variables play between xi. The variable investment is non-linear, takes positive values along. So I implement the variables, the dependent variable, independent variable, financial resources, municipal common fund, and personal, municipal staff, educate the professionalization, the motivation of the mayor of his continuity, express experience. The I explore is municipal accountability. The municipal organization is robust, transparency. The variable I use many control variables, locate environmental. I have used data of a server, and I select needs. Municipalities are exposed to climatic change, to frequent disasters, etc., but contrasting from the point of view also reveals that they observe more than these external dynamics of are the tables with regression. Here you can create an effect, no? Or I ask interacting with financial resources. Is this part here we see the effect, moderating the effects of the other. My conclusions as implication were more